More than 1,000 years ago, in the cold northern lands of Scandinavia, a group of fearless seafarers known as the Vikings began their story. These explorers, warriors, and traders would soon change the history of Europe forever. The Vikings came from regions we now call Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. Life there was harsh, with long winters, rocky land, and limited farmland forcing people to become skilled sailors and adventurers. In Viking villages, families worked together to survive. People farmed small fields, raised animals, built wooden homes, and prepared supplies for long sea journeys. One of the greatest Viking inventions was the longship. These fast and flexible ships allowed Vikings to travel across oceans and deep into rivers. These ships made it possible for Vikings to explore distant lands, search for trade opportunities, and launch sudden raids on coastal towns. Viking warriors were known for their strength, courage, and discipline in battle. Their shields, axes, and teamwork made them feared across Europe. But Vikings were not only warriors. Many were traders who traveled great distances exchanging goods like furs, metals, tools, and food. In the year 793, Vikings launched a famous raid on a monastery in England, shocking Europe and marking the beginning of the Viking Age. The news of this raid spread quickly across Europe, and the reputation of the Vikings as powerful sea warriors began to grow. This was only the beginning. Over the next 300 years, Viking warriors and explorers would travel farther than anyone expected. As Viking ships grew more advanced, these fearless sailors began traveling far beyond Scandinavia. They crossed cold seas and powerful rivers, searching for new lands, riches, and opportunities to trade or conquer. Viking fleets soon began appearing along the coasts of England, France, and Ireland. Their fast ships allowed them to arrive suddenly and leave quickly before defenders could react. Many Viking raids targeted monasteries and small coastal settlements because they were poorly defended and often stored valuable gold, silver, and food. But Vikings did not always destroy what they found. In many places they chose to settle, building new communities and farming the land. Some Viking groups traveled deep into Europe by sailing along major rivers like the Seine and the Rhine, reaching cities far from the ocean. In 845, a powerful Viking fleet sailed up the Seine River and attacked the great city of Paris, shocking the powerful Frankish kingdom. The Vikings became so powerful that some kings in Europe even paid them huge amounts of silver just to leave their lands in peace. Over time, Viking warriors began staying in the lands they once raided, slowly building settlements and blending with local cultures. In England, large Viking armies eventually conquered entire regions, creating an area ruled by Vikings known as the Danes. By the late 9th century, the Vikings were no longer just raiders. They had become rulers, settlers, and powerful players in European history. As Viking power grew across Europe, some Vikings looked beyond war and riches. Brave explorers began sailing farther into the unknown, searching for new lands across the dangerous northern seas. Around the year 870, Viking explorers discovered a large volcanic island in the North Atlantic. This land would soon become known as Iceland. Vikings quickly began settling in Iceland. They built farms, raised animals, and created new communities far from the crowded lands of Scandinavia. One famous Viking explorer named Eric the Red sailed even farther west after being exiled from Iceland. His journey would lead to the discovery of another massive island. Eric the Red discovered Greenland, a cold and icy land. Despite its harsh climate, Viking settlers soon arrived to build farms and small communities. But the Viking exploration did not stop there. Eric the Red's son, Leif Erikson, decided to explore even farther west across the ocean. Around the year 1000, Leif Erikson and his crew reached a new continent across the Atlantic Ocean. Nearly 500 years before Columbus, the Vikings called this new land Vinland because of the wild grapes and fertile fields they discovered there. Although the Vikings attempted to build settlements in Vinland, conflicts and the long distance from home made it difficult to stay there permanently. Even so, the Viking explorers had achieved something incredible. They had crossed the Atlantic Ocean and reached North America centuries before most of the world even knew it existed. As Viking settlements spread across Europe, powerful leaders began to rise. These Viking chiefs and kings, united warriors, commanded fleets of ships, and built strong kingdoms that shaped the future of northern Europe. One famous Viking leader was Harald Fairhair, who was believed to have united many Viking clans and became the first king of Norway. Under strong leaders, Viking armies became more organized. They trained together, planned battles carefully, and used their famous shield wall to defeat enemies. Viking warriors were skilled fighters who used axes, swords, and spears. Their bravery and teamwork made them extremely dangerous in battle. During this time, Vikings also ruled parts of England. Viking kings controlled large territories and collected taxes from the lands they conquered. One of the most powerful Viking rulers was King Canute, who eventually ruled England, Denmark, and Norway, creating a vast Viking empire. For a time, it seemed the Vikings would dominate northern Europe forever. Their ships controlled the seas, and their kings ruled powerful kingdoms. However, new changes were beginning. European kingdoms were growing stronger, building armies and defenses to resist Viking attacks. At the same time, many Vikings began adopting Christianity and settling permanently in the lands they once raided. Slowly, the age of Viking warriors and raiders began to fade, as the world around them continued to change. By the early 11th century, the Viking world was changing quickly. Many Viking warriors had settled permanently in Europe, becoming farmers, traders, and rulers rather than raiders. European kingdoms had also become stronger. Castles, organized armies, and better defenses made it harder for Viking raiders to attack and escape as easily as before. One of the final Viking invasions happened in 1066, when the Norwegian king Harald Hardrada sailed to England with a powerful army. Harald Hardrada and his army fought English forces in a fierce battle at Stamford Bridge, one of the most important battles in Viking history. The battle ended in defeat for the Vikings, and Harald Hardrada was killed. Many historians consider this moment the true end of the Viking Age. Although their era of conquest had ended, the Vikings left a powerful mark on the cultures, languages, and histories of many countries. Viking explorers had reached lands as far as North America, the Middle East, and deep into Europe through vast river networks. They were not just warriors, but also skilled sailors, shipbuilders, explorers, and traders who connected distant parts of the world. Even today, the legends of the Vikings continue to inspire books, movies, and stories about their incredible adventures, from humble villages in Scandinavia to voyages across the Atlantic Ocean. The Vikings became one of the most fascinating civilizations in world history.